You're sitting in a room full of people. There's conversation happening. Someone laughs in the background. A familiar voice calls your name. And yet, you feel alone. Not because no one is there, but because no one truly sees you. You nod, you smile, you respond politely. But deep down, something is missing. Something quiet, but heavy. If you've ever felt this kind of loneliness, the kind that lingers even when you're surrounded, you're not broken. You're not dramatic. You're not being ungrateful. You're human. This feeling has a name. It has a root. And you are not the only one carrying it. Many people think loneliness is about being physically alone. But the truth is, some of the loneliest moments happen in the middle of a crowded room. What we long for isn't just company. It's connection, presence, to be heard, understood, and truly felt. In this video, we'll gently explore why loneliness still shows up in our lives, especially as we grow older, and how it's not about who's around you, but how deeply you're seen. Let's begin. Loneliness isn't about being alone. Loneliness doesn't always mean being by yourself. In fact, some of the deepest, most aching loneliness happens when you're surrounded by others. You might live with family. You might see neighbors every day. You might attend group dinners, church services, or community events. And still, you feel invisible. Because real loneliness doesn't come from the absence of people. It comes from the absence of connection. You can sit at a table with your own children and feel like a stranger. You can walk into a room full of familiar faces and still feel a quiet ache inside, like you don't quite belong there anymore. You smile because it's polite. You nod because it's expected. But no one really asks how you're doing. Not really. And if they do, they often don't stay long enough to hear the honest answer. So you keep it all inside, your thoughts, your memories, your grief. And the more you keep inside, the further away you start to feel from the world around you. There's a kind of loneliness that grows not in silence, but in noise. The kind where everyone is talking, but no one is listening. Where the conversation moves fast, about news, errands, schedules, and you're just trying to catch up. You miss the days when people sat and talked for hours, when no one was in a rush, when stories were shared not to impress, but to connect. Loneliness isn't cured by being near people. It's eased by being seen. By someone looking you in the eye with time in their voice. By someone asking you a question not because they have to, but because they care. It's that feeling when someone hears you, not just your words, but your meaning. And the older we get, the more we crave that kind of presence. Not small talk, not surface-level check-ins, but the quiet, healing kind of connection that says, you're still here, and you still matter. So if you've been wondering why you still feel lonely, even when your days are technically full, it's not something wrong with you. It's something very human inside of you that still longs to be met, to be understood, to be truly known. You don't need more people. You need more presence. And that begins with recognizing what kind of loneliness you're feeling and knowing you're not alone in feeling it. Emotional versus social loneliness. Not all loneliness feels the same, and not all loneliness comes from being alone. Psychologists often speak of two kinds of loneliness, social and emotional. Understanding the difference between them can change the way we see ourselves and help us be more gentle with what we're feeling. Social loneliness is the one most people recognize. It's what happens when you don't have enough people around. When your days are quiet, your phone rarely rings, and there are no friends or family nearby to spend time with. It's about numbers, about absence. But then there's emotional loneliness, and that one runs deeper. This is the kind of loneliness you can feel even when you're in a full house, even when your calendar has events on it, even when someone brings you coffee every morning. Emotional loneliness isn't about being alone. It's about not feeling connected, not feeling seen. You might have people who check in with you, But do they truly know you? Do they ask how your heart is doing? Do they sit long enough to hear the stories you still carry, the questions you still wonder about, the memories that still visit you when no one's around? That's what emotional loneliness aches for. Not just interaction, but intimacy. Not just contact, but connection. Many older adults silently carry this kind of loneliness. They're surrounded, but untouched. They're included, but not involved. They're cared for, but not truly known. And here's the hard part. Emotional loneliness is often invisible. It doesn't always show up in ways others can see. You might laugh at the right moments, show up for the grandkids, nod when someone tells a story. But inside, you feel like your voice has grown quieter, like you're slowly fading into the background. This is not weakness. This is not you being too sensitive or too emotional. This is your soul asking for real connection. And the thing is, emotional loneliness is harder to talk about because it makes us feel guilty. We think, I should be grateful. My children call. My neighbor checks on me. And yes, those things matter. They do. But still, something inside you says, no one really knows me anymore. That truth is tender, it's heavy, but it's also honest. And in that honesty, there's room to breathe. Because once we name it, once we say, what I'm feeling is emotional loneliness, we stop blaming ourselves. We stop pretending everything's fine, and we start realizing this is a human need, a valid one, a sacred one. You were made for connection, not just in the busy years, not just when raising kids or working full time, but also now, in the quiet years, in the slower days, in the moments when you long to be seen, not out of pity, but out of presence. You still deserve that. And it's not too late to ask for it. The shift that no one talks about. There's a shift that happens slowly, almost quietly, as we grow older. At first, it feels like nothing, just a few changes here and there. But over time, it starts to reshape your entire world. Not in loud, dramatic ways, but in small, steady steps that few people notice. You retire, and suddenly, you're no longer introduced by what you do. You're not the teacher, the nurse, the manager, the provider. You're just home now. The phone doesn't ring as often. The calendar opens up, and the days, once filled with noise and names and purpose, become quieter. Sometimes too quiet. Your children grow up. They love you deeply, but their lives are full now. Schedules, work, their own children, their own homes. They check in. They visit. But something has changed. You are no longer the center of their orbit. And maybe you've lost a spouse or a best friend. Someone who knew all your stories without needing you to explain. Someone who sat next to you without needing to speak. That kind of connection can't be replaced. And when it's gone, a silence settles into your life that no TV or background noise can fill. You don't talk about it much because people assume you're okay. Because on the surface, you are. But inside, you feel the shift. From needed to optional. From central to supporting cast. From being asked for advice to being reminded to take your pills. And that shift, the one no one talks about, can leave you feeling like a ghost in your own home. Present, but not essential. Loved, but not fully seen. It's not that people mean to make you feel that way. Life just moves. But it moves around you now, not with you. And that's a loneliness few people understand until they've lived it. Because it's not about being bitter. It's about being honest. You once mattered in ways that filled you. You once woke up every day with purpose, responsibility, belonging. And now, things are different. Not worse. Not meaningless, just different. But sometimes, that difference feels like loss. Here's the thing. You haven't disappeared. You haven't stopped being wise, strong, creative, or needed. You are still full of stories, memories, insight, all of which still matter. You just need new ways to offer them, new ways to be seen again, because you are still becoming, still growing, even now, even after everything that's changed. And just because your role in the world has shifted doesn't mean your value has. You are not finished. You're not fading. You are simply moving into a quieter chapter, one that still deserves to be read out loud. The pain of shallow conversation. There comes a point when the conversations around you start to feel empty. Not because they're unkind, not because people don't care, but because they no longer reach you, not where it matters. You talk about the weather. You talk about groceries. You hear, "How are you?" And you say, "I'm fine," because it's easier than explaining the truth. And deep down, you wonder when was the last time someone asked how you really are and stayed long enough to hear the full answer. It's not that people don't mean well. They do. But the world has gotten faster, louder, more distracted. People talk in passing. They multitask through conversations. They look at their phones while nodding at your words. And it leaves you feeling like your voice has become background noise in a life that used to listen. You remember when conversations were slower? When you sat on porches and let stories unfold over hours. When silence between friends wasn't awkward, it was shared space. When someone asked, "What's been on your mind lately?" and truly wanted to know. Now, most conversations feel like small talk wrapped in hurry, surface level, predictable, safe. And it hurts, not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet, aching kind of way. Because what you miss is not just being spoken to. You miss being understood. There is a kind of loneliness that comes from unspoken depth. You feel things. You notice things. You carry memories, questions, wisdom, and emotions that no one seems to ask about anymore. And over time, that silence begins to feel like separation. Like your inner life is too big, too heavy, too deep to bring to the table. So you smile politely. You listen more than you speak. And the loneliness settles in, not because no one's there, but because the connection has become too thin to hold your truth. This is the part of growing older that people don't often talk about. The pain of realizing that fewer people ask real questions. The frustration of answering, "I'm fine," when what you mean is, "I'm lonely, I'm tired, I'm remembering too much, I'm hoping someone sees me." But you're not alone in this. So many people, especially in their 60s, 70s, 80s, are feeling the same quiet ache. Longing for just one conversation that goes below the surface. Longing to say something real and have someone stay with you in it. Here's the good news. Real conversation still exists. You are still worthy of being heard, deeply, patiently, and with presence. And sometimes it begins with you reaching out, one brave word at a time. Maybe it means starting with a sentence like, "I've been thinking about something lately," or, "Can I share something that's been on my heart?" It doesn't always lead to a perfect connection, but it opens a door. And with enough open doors, someone will walk through and sit beside your truth. Because even though the world has changed, the need for meaningful connection has not. And even in a world full of small talk, you still deserve big conversations. The psychology of feeling invisible. There's a certain kind of loneliness that doesn't come from being ignored, but from being quietly faded out. You're in the room. You're part of the conversation. You're present. But somehow it feels like you're not really seen anymore. You speak, and no one responds. You offer an idea, and it's brushed aside. You ask a question, and the answer comes with a distracted tone, eyes looking past you. No one means to hurt you, but the message is loud even in silence. You're not the center of attention anymore. You're not who people turn to first. This slow invisibility doesn't happen overnight. It creeps in through small moments. When you're no longer asked for your opinion, When the doctor talks to your son instead of to you. When people stop calling you by your name and start referring to you as grandma, dad, or the patient. And little by little, you start to feel more like a role than a person, more like a background presence than a voice that matters. Psychologists call this social devaluation. It means we begin to feel like we're no longer relevant, no longer interesting, no longer needed. And when you feel invisible, your brain responds as if you are invisible. Your nervous system registers it as threat, not a physical one, but an emotional one. Your body tightens, your voice softens, you withdraw just a little. And the more you withdraw, the more invisible you seem, even to yourself. That's the heartbreaking part. You stop expecting to be seen. You stop trying to be heard. You begin to believe the lie that your presence is an afterthought, that your thoughts are too much, or not relevant, or not needed right now. But let's pause here, because that's not the truth. You are not invisible. You are not irrelevant. You are still full of meaning, of stories, of insights this world desperately needs, even if it's forgotten how to ask for them. Sometimes invisibility is less about age and more about how our culture has trained people to stop listening as deeply as they used to. And yet, your voice still matters, even when it's quieter, even when it's not the first one in the room, even when it's been silent for a while. Because visibility isn't just about being looked at, it's about being valued. And yes, being seen again may take some gentle effort. It may take saying, "I'd like to finish my thought," or "Can I tell you what I think?" Or simply sitting in your truth and trusting that you still belong. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to speak fully. You are allowed to ask to be looked at, heard, acknowledged, not out of ego, but out of humanity. Because no one, no matter their age, is meant to live unseen. And if no one has said this to you in a while, let me say it now. I see you. You are here. You matter. You are not broken. You are human. When you've felt lonely long enough, it starts to feel like there's something wrong with you. You begin to ask hard questions in the quiet. Why do I feel this way when others seem fine? Why does everyone else seem to move on so easily? Maybe I'm just too sensitive now. Maybe I expect too much. But here's the truth. No one tells you loud enough. You're not too sensitive. You're not asking for too much. And you are most certainly not broken. You are human. And what you're feeling, this ache, this longing to be seen, to be understood, to feel close to someone again, is not a weakness. It's proof that your heart is still beating in all the right places. You see, loneliness is not a flaw. It's not something to hide or be ashamed of. It's simply your soul's way of reminding you, I still want connection. I still want meaning. I still want to feel alive in someone's eyes. And that is deeply human, not just at 25. Not just when you're raising a family or working full time, but even now. Especially now, because in this stage of life, when so much has changed, when so much has been lost or let go of, the need for connection doesn't disappear. If anything, it becomes more sacred, more honest, more raw. But the world doesn't always make space for that. We live in a culture that celebrates independence, strength, self-sufficiency, especially as we age. And so asking for emotional closeness can feel wrong, like you're being needy or dramatic or not aging gracefully. Let me tell you something with complete sincerity. There is nothing more graceful than a heart that still wants to love and be loved. There is nothing more noble than a soul that still reaches for meaning, even in the quiet. You may feel tired. You may feel discouraged. But you are not weak. You are not invisible. You are not broken. You are responding exactly the way a heart is meant to respond when it longs for something deeper. And that longing, it's not the end of something. It's the beginning. It means you still have the capacity to care. It means you still want to grow. It means you haven't given up on yourself or on the people around you. Yes, your circle may have gotten smaller. Yes, the world may have gotten louder, but your need for connection is still holy, still real, still yours to honor. So the next time that wave of loneliness comes over you, instead of saying, "What's wrong with me?" try asking, "What is my heart asking for right now?" And then listen, not with judgment, not with shame, but with the kindness you would offer a dear friend, because that's what you are, to yourself. A friend who still needs kindness, still deserves warmth, still longs to be known. You are not too much, you are not too late, you are simply human, and that in itself is more than enough. What you need is presence, not people. It's easy to assume that loneliness can be solved by simply having more people around, more conversations, more invitations, more activity. But deep down, you already know that's not always true. You can sit at a full table and still feel unseen. You can spend an entire day surrounded by others and still go to bed feeling hollow. Because loneliness isn't cured by company. It's eased by presence. There's a difference between someone being near you and someone being with you. One fills space, the other fills your heart. You've probably experienced both. Maybe a friend visits, but spends the entire time checking their phone. Maybe family comes by, but the conversation never gets past surface level. They're there, physically, but not emotionally, not spiritually, and something inside you aches because it knows the difference. What you need, what all of us need, is presence. That quiet, focused attention. That feeling that someone is truly with you, even if no words are spoken. That kind of presence says, "You matter enough for me to stop and stay here fully." And here's the surprising part. Sometimes you only need one person to do that. Just one. Not a crowd. Not a big family gathering. Just one soul who's willing to slow down, sit beside you, and truly see you. And sometimes, when that person isn't available, you can be that presence for yourself. It may sound strange at first, but some of the most healing moments come when you sit quietly, place your hand over your heart, and ask, "How are you today? What are you carrying?" You listen without judgment. You sit with your memories instead of running from them. You offer yourself the same warmth you'd give to someone you love. That is presence. And it's powerful. It means lighting a candle before dinner, just for you. It means writing in a journal not to fix things, but to witness your own thoughts. It means playing music that soothes your soul and letting it wash over your spirit like a balm. Presence isn't about fixing the loneliness. It's about honoring it, sitting with it, breathing through it, and slowly, gently, inviting connection back in. From yourself, from others, from the world. If there's someone in your life who has shown up with real presence, even just once, hold on to that. Reach out to them again. Invite more of that into your life, even in small ways. And if you feel brave, be that presence for someone else. Write a letter. Ask a real question. Sit with someone without rushing them to move on. Sometimes, when we offer what we crave, it finds its way back to us. Because in the end, it's not the number of people around you that heals your loneliness. It's the depth of the connection, the quality of the presence, the courage to say, "I'm still here and I still want to be known." And that starts, not with more noise, but with more meaning. Being present is the greatest gift we can offer. Loneliness does not mean you are broken. It means you are still open, still reaching for something real. And what heals that ache is not more noise or more people. It's presence, a quiet moment, a real conversation, a gentle reminder that your heart still matters. You deserve to be seen, not just as a role, not just as someone who used to be, but as a full, living soul, right here, right now. So if you feel alone today, know this: you are not invisible. You are not forgotten. You are still needed, still wise, still beautifully human. And even one person, truly present, can change everything. That person can be someone else, or it can begin with you.